Well, good morning and welcome to another Monday Morning Inspirations, ready to start your week off just right. Today we have as our guest Erlene Washington, and a quote that she gives to us today: be yourself. We are not meant to fit in, we're meant to stand out. And don't be afraid of failure. Be the star of your own movie. So, just briefly about her bio and her message. Fitting in, it allows us to blend in with everyone else, but being different allows you to be yourself, to be unique, and to be more creative. Not that we want to draw attention to ourselves and away from others, but because everyone is unique in their own way. But our light can't shine as bright if we always keep it hidden under the wings of others. The person who follows the crowd will usually go no further than the crowd, and therefore will never be seen as an individual or a leader. What tends to set us apart can sometimes feel like a heavy load or a burden, but in actuality, it's what makes you great. So Erlene joined GBMC Health Partners as Vice President and Chief Operating Officer of GBMC Health Partners in February 2019. She previously served as Senior Vice President of Finance and Accounting at Crystal Run HealthCare, a complex multi-specialty physician group in Middletown, New York, and held significant leadership positions at Southern New Hampshire Health System, Boston Medical Center, Partners Healthcare Systems, and Coopers and Lybrand. She received a Bachelor's of Arts from Wellesley College and a Master's of Arts from Bentley College. So without further ado, Erlene, welcome, and the floor is yours.
Hi, good morning, everybody. I was telling Wayman and Gina, I'm so nervous about this. I was thinking about what to say for the last month or so. And, oftentimes when someone reads your bio, you can't believe that they're reading about you. I'm like, oh my God, I did all that. And, I've gone through several versions of what I would say today. And, even though, this is all about being yourself and don't be afraid of failure, I think, the starting point is determining what is the right thing to do. And, somewhere, in my career, I always felt that I needed to be like everybody else. I've had people criticize me saying that I didn't have executive presence, and I tried to be like the other executives, dress the same way, speak the same way. And I realized it just made me feel even more uncomfortable in my own skin. So somewhere along the lines, I realized, I am who I am. It is what it is. And, my thought process in any situation is to figure out what is the right thing to do for yourself, for your family. And in this case, at GBMC, what is the right thing to do for the patients, and even more importantly, the people that we work with. And in figuring that stuff out, I realized, if I know within myself, and everybody's concept of what the right thing to do is different. But assuming that we're starting from being an inherently good person, if you figure that out, then you could be yourself. And, as a young kid, and I don't know if everybody had this, you would always watch these movies and the star of the movie never died. And, I used to say as a young kid, oh my God, my family, we're the stars of the movies. We're never going to die. We're going to, and, I've always felt that way about myself. No matter what I did, I'm not going to die or fail, especially because I felt that there was this little voice within myself that says, I think I'm going to make it. I think I'm going to make it. So I followed that motto. But I think just going back to being yourself. And, as you can see, I am a Black woman in a high pressured career, and there's so much pressure sometimes to conform. And, I think going along the way, I've been relatively successful, and I have a few slides just to, if Wayman, if you just want to show them so you can see a little bit more, but if you go to slide 1. And if you could go to the next one. Let's see. Okay, so I love this picture. I tell everybody it doesn't look anything like me because it's great. So, this is me, and it gives you a little bit of my background. But if you go to the next slide, this is my favorite picture in the whole world. So not only, am I in a high pressure job, but I wanted to show you that, even with having 4 kids, and they're a lot older now, this was 10 years ago, but 10 years ago, I was a VP status, high pressured. And, I have these 4 kids, 2 years apart on average. And everyone would say to me, what are you doing? Just settle into where you are. You don't need to go. You don't need to be a VP, and you don't need to move to another state. Why can't you just be satisfied? And somewhere within myself, there's something pulling me to do more. And everyone was so afraid that I would fail because he had got these kids and this career. And I always felt whatever this pull was, I gotta follow it, because somewhere along the lines I always felt as if I was the star of the movie and I wouldn't fail. So if you go to the next slide, and we're gonna Wayman, hopefully I'll get through these. So, here's the org chart. I report to Dr. Flowers, and you could see the level of responsibility for health partners, so, there's a lot of people I'm responsible for. And generally, I always say, what's right for them is right for me, and what's right for the organization is right for me, and what's right for the patients is right for me. So if you go to the next slide, Wayman. And you could see, here are our patients. We've got about, well over 83,000 covered lives. And, every day I hear stories about patients who've, fell on misfortune, fell on hard times, and, they call, and, and I feel as if, by listening to the patients and being here, there's something within me that's saying you've got to continue to keep going. And if you go to the next slide, and those are just some of our goals for health partners. And then if you go to the next slide, and then here we have it. Here it is. And this is how I met Wayman. And this is really why I came to GBMC, because as I was interviewing for the job, and I wasn't really gonna take the job, I knew Dr. Chisar, I knew the person in my previous position, and I had just interviewed just to, pay some respect and loyalty, because they said, hey, why don't you come and check out the position? But the one thing that made me say, this is the place I needed to be, was when Dr. Chisar talked about the issues in Baltimore City and what we were about to do in the Jones County community through Helping Out Mission. And something within what he said, something about what he said resonated with me. And, so here I am, and that picture, the kids were, a little bit older from there. But I said, here I am, people say, what are you doing? You're going to move to Baltimore, root these kids? And, somewhere along the line, I went back to, I'm not going to fail. There's something pulling me to do more. And along the lines, I'm going to be myself. And so if you go to the next slide, and then we started to dig in more, about some of the issues, within Baltimore City, health disparities. You've got hypertension, we've got, diabetes, obesity, and, and somewhere going from all the way back to where I started out as a CPA in finance and back into New England, I end up here. And, I feel as if this little voice in me will do something great here. And, I've had the opportunity to work with Wayman. Wayman, we were meant to be, meant to meet
Yes.
each other, to try to do something to help not only the patients within Baltimore County, but also the patients within Baltimore City. So, to sum it up, and I think I only have 10 minutes, I think the point of, doing the right thing and being yourself and never being afraid to fail is really just listening to that inner voice and, doing what you think is right and never listen to people who say you're doing too much or why are you doing this? You have to listen to yourself and you have to believe that everything will be okay. And so far it has been for me. So hopefully that was inspirational. So I could entertain any questions or discussions or anything along those lines. Oh, that's us.
Yes.
So Erlene, this is Diane. Hi, good morning. Thank you so much for being with us. Your message is inspirational, and you are an inspirational leader. The interactions, the work that I have done in meeting with you, I mean, you are so genuine and so warm and so caring. So I just want to say you are, such a gift to us in GBMC. That's the comment. But the question is, do you have a mentor? Did you have a mentor? Do you have a mentor, somebody that you have kind of looked up to or consulted with? Because the things that you have done have been incredible. So I just wonder about mentors in your life.
Yeah, I don't really have a mentor. I have people who have brought me along the way. I've had people who have looked out for me. So, for example, I've had bosses who would bring me along. Ben Perez, he was in this position before, and he worked at Boston Medical Center with Dr. Chassar. And I've had people who brought me along and have exposed me to things. And I like a challenge. I like doing the things that are where other people may say it's impossible to do. I like to do things the hard way. And my husband's gonna kill me. Well, I don't want you to tell him that I'm saying that. He has been my inspiration, I think, because oftentimes at the end of the day, when I feel it's hard, he never lets me become a victim, of circumstance. And oftentimes I get mad at him. I'm like, let me feel sorry for myself. And he doesn't let me do that. And so the next day, I brush myself off. And, I was gonna, actually my favorite thing to say to myself, and it's not really that positive, but oftentimes when things happen that I feel, it just happened because I had no control, and maybe I always say it is what it is. And when I say that throughout the day, it allows me to let things go and move on to the next thing. So when, be yourself, don't be afraid, do the right thing. It is what it is. Allows me to inspire and just move on. So I've had several people who have brought me along, and several mentors or people who've, held me up.
Thank you, Erlene.
Wow. And, you're coming into this system really coincided with a very special time. I mean, you came in and then the pandemic hit. We had just launched this new healthcare center in Baltimore City, and you've been right in there and you've been exceeding your enrollment numbers. But how do you maintain, I guess, that family and work balance and still move toward success the way you have?
Well, I think, so I've always worked the whole time, every pregnancy I've always worked, never took a break. And, I had the opportunity to have my husband, he was a stay-at-home dad. He's now working. But the kids, I always used to say to the kids, because I didn't really have a lot of time with them, but I always wanted to have that quality time. And even today, I say to the kids, did I hold you enough? Did I spend enough time with you? And they're like, Mom, we always knew that you had to work, but you held us enough and you talked to us enough. And I think in the end, it's quality time. I really don't have any me time because my me time is their time, and it's all. But I think I try to have quality time with them. These days, now that they're older, we try to pick a show on Netflix that we watch together. So, it's a balance. But I think, one of the things that works for me too is it's showing the kids that you're human. Like I used to say to my daughter at times, I used to say, I'm really tired. She would come to me with a bunch of problems, and I would say, just sit next to me. Don't say a word, but just sit next to me. Just lay down with me. And along the lines, now that she's older, she reflects on that and she understands. And it's just all about having the connection with your family. Long-winded answer.
I've had the pleasure of meeting two of your children, adult children, and they're just seem like just great people. So what you did worked. So and it's not easy that work life, that balancing the family and work. And you've seen me at some community actions and gatherings.
Yeah.
What do? I have my 4-year-old in tow a lot of times because
Yeah.
well, how do there's your work time, there's your quality time. Sometimes it has to go in both, especially if it's for something off hours.
And I think it's important for the kids to see what you do, because even though you may think, oh my gosh, I'm bringing them along with work or something along their line, it inspires them to be great people. And it also let them see another side of you as well. Sometimes they say to me, Mom, you're on the phone with your coworkers. It doesn't sound one bit like you. What kind of voice is that? I'm like, well, why am I going to start speaking home language? So.
Well, thank you so much. Are there any other questions or comments? I think people are just soaking in the wisdom and the insight. So what has been since coming to Baltimore, since coming into this role, right? Being yourself, standing out, what has been your greatest challenge and what has been your greatest success?
I think the biggest, well, two things. The biggest challenge in the role has been first with COVID, when it first embarked about 2 years ago, we had to figure out how to deal with the volume going down and what to do with the staff, and the philosophy was that we weren't gonna lay off anybody. So we had to go through, the taking time off, taking vacations. And, we got some pushback, from some of the providers with that. The second challenge was the cyber attack. That was awful. It was just awful. And, but we got through it. We got through it. The greatest success, I think, and keep in mind, I came from a finance background. This was a really, really new role for me. I used to be a CFO, and here I moved into operations and really didn't know quite what I was doing. So you had the COVID, you had the cyber attack, you're in a new role. But I would say the greatest success has been the relationships that I have embarked on. And I feel if you have a good relationship with people, they would do anything for you. And, I've leveraged that. And I think, it goes back to being yourself, If you show who you really are to anybody, whether it's a VP or a chairman, they will identify with you and they will help you. And, I think just being myself and open with people has been my greatest success, because it's allowed me to get through a lot of barriers and hurdles in this role.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. And I hope that you will be a guest again, return in the future to Monday Morning Inspirations. And we do have one comment in the chat from Chris Schaefer. You are an encouragement to all moms.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
And you're an encouragement to some dads too. All right. All right. Well, thank you. And thanks everyone for joining us this morning for another Monday Morning Inspirations. And we hope to see you next week. Stay blessed, stay well.